Her name was Avelini Reyes, 27, a woman who had learned early that dreams often come wrapped in struggle. She had once been full of laughter and light, working as an aspiring teacher, helping children in small village schools. But a sudden illness took her mother, debts piled up, and Avelini found herself juggling 2 jobs just to keep the small roof over her head. Every day was a quiet war between hope and exhaustion. She had stopped believing in miracles long ago. The blind date wasn't even her idea. Her best friend, Leora, had signed her up on a dating app, claiming it was time she met someone who saw her heart and not her hardships. Avelini had laughed it off, but deep down, she longed for someone who would see her beyond her tired clothes and the weight of her life. Still, when she received the message confirming the meeting, she almost cancelled. What could she offer anyone? She didn't have beauty to impress or riches to flaunt, only a heart that had been broken too many times and yet somehow kept beating across town. Kieran Vale, 34, CEO of a flourishing architecture firm, was used to people wanting him for his money, his influence, or the promise of a lifestyle they dreamed of but never earned. He had stopped dating seriously years ago, tired of women who smiled with lips that hid intentions. But when his sister secretly set up a blind date for him, she said something that caught his attention. "She's not like the others, Kieran. She doesn't even know who you are. She thinks you're a teacher." He had chuckled, intrigued by the thought of being seen as ordinary for once. So when Avelini walked in plain, hesitant, yet somehow radiant in her simplicity, he found himself staring, not because she was conventionally beautiful, but because she was real. There was something disarmingly honest about her. Her nervous fingers fidgeted with her cup, and when she smiled shyly in greeting, it was the kind of smile that could heal something in a man's soul. They talked. At first, small things, weather, books, the taste of coffee, but slowly, the conversation deepened. Avelini spoke about children, her love for teaching, her belief that education could change lives. She didn't talk about her struggles, but Kieran could read the quiet weariness in her voice, the way she hesitated before saying she worked a lot. He didn't press. He just listened, really listened, something few had done for her in years. Hours passed like minutes. The cafe dimmed as the sun began to sink outside. When she stood up to leave, apologizing softly for not being able to stay longer, he found himself not wanting the evening to end. She excused herself, explaining she had to take the bus before it got dark. Kieran, still pretending to be an ordinary teacher, offered to drive her home. She refused politely. She didn't like accepting help. That simple refusal made him admire her even more, but as she walked away, a quiet pain tugged at his chest. He wasn't used to feeling this way, drawn not by charm, but by the raw, unpolished truth of someone's existence. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her. The next morning, while reviewing design proposals in his glass-walled office, his thoughts kept drifting back to her soft-spoken words and that hesitant smile. He asked his sister for her full name, then searched her up quietly. What he found broke him a little. Avelini worked part-time at a daycare and as a night shift cleaner at one of his company's buildings. Every night, after everyone left, she cleaned the floors he walked on. He was stunned. She had no idea that the man she had sat across from, the one who had made her laugh over spilled coffee, was the CEO of the very place she scrubbed at midnight. He wanted to help her, but not by throwing money at her. He wanted to restore her dignity, not take it away. So he started small. He instructed the HR department to promote her cleaning team to better pay and safer shifts. He then began coincidentally bumping into her during her late hours, always with a kind word, a small smile, sometimes offering coffee or snacks. She was confused but grateful, unaware of who he truly was. One night, she was cleaning the top floor when the lights flickered. The building was almost empty. Kieran appeared, saying he'd left some paperwork behind. She apologized for being in the way, but he smiled gently and said, "You never are." The simplicity of his tone made her chest tighten. They sat and talked again, this time more freely. She told him about her dreams, to open a small school one day for underprivileged children, where no one would be turned away for being poor. He listened, his admiration deepening with every word. Weeks passed. Their connection grew naturally, like sunlight spilling quietly through cracks. But Kieran knew he couldn't hide his truth forever. He wanted to tell her who he really was, but fear held him back, the fear that she'd see him differently, that the honesty she gave him would vanish under the shadow of his wealth. Then one night, fate made the choice for him. Avellini came into work to find the building buzzing with people, news crews, and flowers. A magazine had published a feature about Kieran Vale, the youngest CEO to donate millions to children's education. His picture was everywhere. Her broom slipped from her hands as she stared at the screens, his smile, his name, his truth. She didn't go to him that night. She finished her shift quietly, tears stinging her eyes. She felt foolish, like she had been part of a story that was never real. He was a man of power, she was a woman with nothing. How could they ever belong to the same world? When Kieran learned she'd been there, seen everything, and left without a word, his heart sank. He drove to her small apartment building, where he found her sitting outside on the old steps, hugging her bag like a shield. Her eyes lifted to his, filled with confusion and hurt. "I didn't mean to lie," he said softly, stepping closer. "I just wanted someone to see me, not the name, not the money, just me." She looked away, whispering, "And I wanted someone who wouldn't pity me." The silence stretched. The street was quiet, the night breeze carrying the faint scent of rain. Then Kieran reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook, the one he always carried for ideas. Inside, on the last page, was a sketch, a small schoolhouse surrounded by children. Beneath it, he'd written Avellini's Haven. "I don't pity you," he said gently. "I believe in you. And I want to help you build this dream, not because I can, but because I should. You see the world in a way that I forgot how to. You make people feel seen." Tears spilled down her cheeks. For years, she had been invisible, struggling in silence. But here was someone who saw everything she tried to hide, the pain, the strength, the quiet grace. Months later, Avellini stood in front of a small white building painted with cheerful murals. Avellini's Haven had become real, a school for children who couldn't afford one, funded by Kieran's company but run entirely by her. She wore the same old smile, but her eyes now shone with confidence and peace. The first day, when the children ran through the gates, laughter echoing around her, she looked toward the man who had believed in her when she barely believed in herself. Kieran stood at a distance, watching her with quiet pride. She walked up to him and whispered, "You saw me when I had nothing. You gave me back my everything."